Sarah Brennan pressed the knife against her own throat as the Comanche warrior approached, his paint-streaked face unreadable in the firelight. She'd watched her father fall defending their trading post, seen her mother dragged away screaming, and now this young warrior with haunted eyes stood before her, speaking words she couldn't understand. But when he reached out, it wasn't to take the knife. It was to gently lower her trembling hand. "No die," he said in broken English, his voice carrying a sadness that made no sense. "You chosen." Behind him, the settlement of Willow Creek burned, and Sarah realized her life as she knew it had just ended. But something in this warrior's reluctant gaze suggested her story was far from over. Before we dive into the story, I want you to take a moment and imagine being torn from everything you've ever known, forced into a world where every rule you live by no longer applies. If this kind of raw, emotional storytelling moves you, click the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss these powerful historical tales. And I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. Are you watching this late at night like me, or is it morning where you are? Now let's continue with the story. The raid had come at dawn, swift and terrible. Sarah had been kneading bread when the first screams pierced the morning air. Through the window, she'd seen them Comanche warriors on horseback, moving through Willow Creek like a violent wind. Her father had pushed his old rifle into her hands, but she'd never fired it. Instead, she'd grabbed a kitchen knife when they broke through the door. Now, 3 hours later, she stood among other captives, her dress torn and stained with smoke. The young warrior who'd stopped her desperate act kept glancing at her with something like regret. He was different from the others, leaner, his war paint less elaborate. And when the chief rode past, examining the captives, this warrior said something in their language that made the older man stop. The chief dismounted, studying Sarah with calculating eyes. She tried to protect the minister's daughter, a girl of barely 12, pulling her behind her skirts when the warriors first entered. The chief had seen it. He spoke rapidly to the young warrior, whose face drained of color beneath his paint. The warrior argued, gesturing toward another captive, but the chief's decision was final. He pointed at Sarah, then at the reluctant warrior, and made a joining motion with his hands. The other warriors laughed, but the young one looked as trapped as she felt. "You mine now," he said quietly in English, and Sarah heard the chains in his voice. The ropes cut into Sarah's wrists as she rode, tied to the saddle of a paint horse that followed the young warrior's mount. 3 days they'd been riding north, away from everything she knew. The other captives rode separately, but this warrior she'd heard others call him Dakota kept her close, though he barely looked at her. On the second night, when the others slept, he'd approached her bedroll. Sarah had tensed, preparing for the worst, but he'd only loosened her bonds and left a water skin beside her. "Drink slow," he'd whispered, and she'd heard an accent beneath his broken English that didn't match the others. Now, as they crested a ridge revealing the Comanche camp spread across the valley below, hundreds of teepees like teeth against the earth, Dakota suddenly spoke. "I choose you for my brother. He is gentle, would treat you well." His voice carried bitterness. "But Chief Running Bear, see you protect child. See you have warrior spirit. Now you must be mine." Sarah found her voice. "You don't want this either." He turned in his saddle and for the first time in 3 days truly looked at her. His eyes were green, shocking against his sun-darkened skin. "I am called Dakota here, but once, long ago, I was Thomas." The admission hung between them like a blade. 7 winters old when they take me. My family is dead, killed by soldiers who mistake them for raiders. The revelation struck Sarah breathless. He was white, or had been. A captive like her, just taken young enough to forget one life and be forced into another. Why tell me this? Because, after ceremony, after 3 moons when they trust, I help you leave. He faced forward again. "I cannot leave. I try once. White men nearly hang me for savage. But you can go home." "What about what the chief wants? This marriage?" Dakota's shoulders tensed. "Marriage is ceremony only. I sleep outside. You stay pure. When you escape, you tell them you were prisoner, nothing more. You can still have life you planned. Sarah thought of Lieutenant William Hartley, her intended, with his pressed uniforms and talk of manifest destiny. He'd never understand any of this. And you? What happens to you when I'm gone? I tell them you die trying to escape. They believe. White women often try. His voice dropped. I refuse 3 brides already. They think I am strange, touched by spirits. One more loss. They stop trying. As they descended toward the camp, dogs barking and children running to greet the returning warriors, Sarah studied the back of this man who was neither fully white nor fully Comanche. He existed between worlds, belonging to neither, and now he was trying to spare her the same fate. She didn't know whether to feel grateful or heartbroken for them both. The old woman's fingers were gentle as she painted Sarah's face with red ochre and white clay. Mourning Dove, Dakota's grandmother through adoption, hummed while she worked, occasionally speaking in Comanche. Sarah understood none of it until the woman switched to Spanish, which Sarah knew from her father's trading post. My grandson, he is difficult one, Mourning Dove said, weaving feathers into Sarah's hair. 3 brides before you, all beautiful, all strong. He refused them all. Say spirit's not ready. She paused, studying Sarah's face. But you, white woman, you different. He choose you himself. To give to his brother, Sarah corrected. Mourning Dove laughed, a sound like wind through dry leaves. Foolish boy think he can trick the spirits. But Running Bear see through him. See how Dakota look at you when he think no one watches. Sarah's breath caught. He barely knows me. Sometimes spirit knows spirit in single heartbeat. The old woman began painting symbols on Sarah's arms. These marks, they tell story. This one means courage. This one, new beginning. And this, she painted a small spiral over Sarah's heart. This means 2 paths becoming one. Outside, drums began to beat. The ceremony would happen at sunset, and the whole tribe had gathered. Sarah had been dressed in soft deerskin, decorated with beads and quill work that must have taken months to create. She felt like she was wearing someone else's life. When they led her out, the entire tribe had formed a circle. Dakota stood at the center, transformed. Gone was the reluctant warrior he wore. Ceremonial dress, eagle feathers in his hair, his chest painted with symbols that seemed to dance in the firelight. But his eyes, those unexpected green eyes, looked trapped. The ceremony wasn't what Sarah expected. No forcing, no violence. Instead, Running Bear spoke words that sounded like poetry, while the tribe sang in harmony. Then came the blindfold. You must dance, Mourning Dove whispered. Trust the spirits to guide you to your husband. Blindfolded, Sarah moved to the drum's rhythm, her bare feet finding their way across the packed earth. The tribe sang louder, their voices weaving around her. She stumbled, disoriented, but strong hands caught her. Even blindfolded, she knew it was Dakota. His touch was different, careful where others might grab, supportive where others might control. He removed her blindfold, and they stood face to face while the tribe erupted in celebration. I'm sorry, he whispered, so quiet only she could hear. The ceremony continued with feasting and dancing, but when night fell and they were led to their teepee, Dakota grabbed his buffalo robe. I keep my promise, he said, preparing to leave. Wait. Sarah surprised herself by speaking. You could stay inside. It's cold. We could just sleep on opposite sides. He looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. You do not know what you offer. Better I stay outside. But his voice was softer now, less certain, as if her kindness had cracked something inside him. A month had passed since the ceremony, and Sarah had learned to skin rabbits, scrape hides, and speak enough Comanche to trade with other women. Dakota had been patient, teaching her survival while maintaining careful distance. He still slept outside most nights, though twice during thunderstorms, he'd slept just inside the teepee entrance, his back to her. This morning, everything changed. Black Wolf arrived at their fire, his scarred face twisted with contempt. He spoke rapidly in Comanche, but Sarah caught enough words to understand. He was challenging Dakota's claim on her, saying a white woman shouldn't be wasted on a man who wouldn't bet her. Dakota stood slowly, his movement controlled. "She is my wife by law of the tribe. Your wife sleeps alone while you guard her like a dog." Black Wolf spat in English, ensuring Sarah understood. "Give her to real warrior." The challenge couldn't be refused. Within minutes, the entire camp had gathered. Sarah watched, her heart pounding, as the two men circled each other. Black Wolf was larger, stronger, his body marked with victories. Dakota was faster, smarter, but holding back she could see it in how he moved. "Fight properly, boy," Running Bear commanded from his position of honor, "or lose everything." Something shifted in Dakota's stance. When Black Wolf lunged, Dakota moved like water, using the larger man's weight against him. They fought viciously. And Sarah saw the truth. Dakota had been trained as both warrior and survivor. He fought with techniques from two worlds. Victory seemed certain until Black Wolf, beaten and desperate, pulled a hidden arrow tip and slashed. Dakota dodged, but not fast enough. The tip, coated with something dark, grazed his ribs. He still managed to pin Black Wolf, forcing submission. But as the crowd dispersed, Dakota stumbled. "Just a scratch," he told Sarah. But within an hour, fever had taken him. Mourning Dove recognized the poison immediately. "Desert snake venom mixed with poisonous plants. Black Wolf always was coward." She looked at Sarah gravely. "I am too old. My hands shake." "You must help, or he dies." Sarah knelt beside Dakota's thrashing form. She could leave now. The tribe was distracted. Her horse was accessible, and without Dakota conscious, no one would stop her immediately. Freedom was 20 feet away. Instead, she rolled up her sleeves. "My mother was a healer. Tell me what plants you have." For 2 days and nights, Sarah didn't leave his side. She mixed poultices from her mother's recipes combined with Mourning Dove's knowledge. She held him when seizures took him, forced water between his lips, and sang the lullabies her mother once sang to her. On the second night, delirious with fever, he called her name not white woman or wife, but Sarah, like a prayer. When his fever finally broke on the third morning, he found her asleep beside him, her hand still holding his. He stared at her dirt-smudged face, her tangled hair, her dress stained with medicine and sweat. "You stayed?" he whispered, amazed. "You would have done the same," she replied, waking to find his green eyes clear again. Dakota's recovery was slow, giving them long hours together in the teepee. Outside, autumn painted the plains gold. And inside, he taught Sarah to read the winter, count the tribe's history painted on a massive buffalo hide. "Each symbol is 1 year," he explained, his finger tracing the spirals and figures. "This one, the year of the great blizzard. This, when the spotted sickness came." He paused at a particular mark, a small figure between two worlds. "This is my year." Sarah leaned closer, their shoulders touching. "Tell me." "I was Thomas Brennan then." He smiled bitterly at her sharp intake of breath. "Yes, same last name as you, common enough. My parents were farmers outside Fort Worth. Good people, religious. They believed in treating everyone fairly, even the Comanche who came to trade." His finger moved along the hide. "Soldiers came looking for raiders who'd hit a wagon train. My father offered them water, food, but they saw the moccasin tracks from traders, assumed we were harboring enemies." His voice dropped. "They shot my father first. My mother tried to explain, but fear makes men into monsters. She died protecting my sister." "You had a sister?" "Rose, 5 years old. The soldiers shot her too. Thought she was native. From distance our mother was part Mexican. We all had dark hair." He traced another symbol. "The Comanche found me hiding in the root cellar 2 days later. Running Bear's brother took me, raised me. I fought it for 3 years, tried to escape twice. Then I stopped fighting." Stopped, remembering English. Became Dakota. Sarah studied the next symbols. "But you went back." "When I was 17. Thought maybe I had family somewhere. Cousins. Anyone." He laughed, hollow. Made it to Fort Worth. Walked into town wearing white man's clothes I'd traded for. But 10 years changes you. My skin was too dark, my accent wrong. When I tried to explain, they called me a lying savage. Said the Brennan family had no son records burned in a fire. The sheriff was ready to hang me for horse theft I didn't commit when Running Bear's warriors rescued me. So you came back? Where else could I go? Too white for the tribe, too Comanche for the whites. He turned to her then, his green eyes, holding hers. That's why I wanted to spare you this. You still have a chance at your real life. Sarah thought of the past month learning to bead, helping with the harvest, the women who'd begun teaching her their medicine songs. Maybe this is my real life now. He shook his head. You don't understand yet what it means to be between worlds. The loneliness of it. Then teach me, she said, surprising them both with her intensity. Stop protecting me from it and teach me. I'm stronger than you think. That night, for the first time, he didn't even pretend to leave the teepee. He built up the fire and slept across from her. And when nightmares of his family's death woke him, Sarah was there, holding his hand until dawn. Spring arrived with the thunder of hooves. The buffalo had returned, and the entire tribe mobilized for the hunt. Sarah insisted on riding with the women who followed to process the kills, despite Dakota's protests. You're not ready for this, he argued, checking his bow for the third time. I've been practicing riding for months. I can keep up. She touched his arm. I want to understand your world. All of it. He looked at her, something shifting in his expression. Over the winter, they'd grown closer, sharing stories by firelight, teaching each other languages. She spoke decent Comanche now, and his English had returned fully. But they still hadn't crossed the invisible line between them. The hunt began at dawn. Sarah rode with Morning Dove and the other women, watching as the men guided the massive herd into a box canyon. It was magnificent and terrifying dust, rising like smoke, the earth shaking, warriors riding impossibly close to the enormous beasts. Then everything went wrong. A gunshot not from the hunters spooked the herd. The buffalo turned, stampeding toward the women. Sarah's horse reared, throwing her. She hit the ground hard, the world spinning, and when she looked up, a wall of brown death was charging straight at her. Sarah! Dakota's voice cut through the chaos. He abandoned the hunt, riding hard across the path of the stampede. He reached down, pulling her up onto his horse, just as the first buffalo thundered past where she'd fallen. They rode hard for a rock outcropping, his arm tight around her waist, her hands clutching his. The storm passed, leaving dust and eerie silence. Dakota dismounted, checking her for injuries with shaking hands. You could have died. But I didn't. You saved me. I left the hunt, dishonored myself, but his hands kept moving over her arms, her ribs, assuring himself she was whole. Thunder rumbled overhead, a spring storm moving in fast. They found shelter in a shallow cave, pressing back as rain turned the world to water. In the dim light, soaked and shivering, they sat close for warmth. Tell me about your dreams, Dakota said suddenly. Before, what did you want? I wanted to study medicine in Boston. My aunt lived there, said she'd sponsor me. It was foolish. Few schools take women. Not foolish. You saved my life with your medicine. You have the gift. And you? What did you want? To teach, to help children learn. He smiled sadly. Running Bear laughs when I teach the young ones letters in the dirt. Says I'm ruining good warriors. We're quite a pair, Sarah said. A would-be doctor and a would-be teacher, stuck in a cave in the middle of nowhere. Not nowhere, he corrected, turning to face her fully. Here, with you. The space between them vanished. The kiss was soft, tentative, tasting of rain and possibility. When they pulled apart, Sarah saw years of loneliness crumbling in his eyes. I'm not good at this, he whispered, being close to someone. Neither am I, she admitted, then kissed him again, deeper this time, while the storm raged outside and something new began blooming within. The cavalry arrived with the morning sun, 20 soldiers in blue uniforms riding into camp under a white flag. Sarah's blood froze when she saw who led them, Lieutenant William Hartley, her former fiancé, his face weathered by months of searching. Running Bear met them in the center of camp, Dakota at his side as translator. Sarah stayed back with the women, but William's eyes found her immediately. The recognition and horror on his face struck like a physical blow. "Sarah, my God, what have they done to you?" He started forward, but rifles raised on both sides. "Captain wants the woman returned. The interpreter, a greasy man named Briggs, told Running Bear, says she's his property, engaged to be married." Dakota's jaw tightened, but he translated neutrally. Running Bear responded, and Dakota turned to William. "The chief says she is wife to his warrior now, not for trade." William's face reddened. "Tell him I'll pay. Horses, rifles, whatever he wants. She's a white woman, for God's sake. She doesn't belong here." Translate exactly. Running Bear commanded Dakota in Comanche, his eyes sharp. Let her hear his words. Sarah stepped forward then, unable to stay silent. William's relief was palpable. "Sarah, thank God. Tell them to release you. We can go home, forget this nightmare ever happened." "It's not a nightmare, William." He blinked, confused. "They've confused you. Stockholm Syndrome, the doctors call it. Once you're home, I am home." The words surprised her with their truth. "I'm married here. By their law and custom? Married? To which savage?" His eyes went to Dakota, taking in his green eyes, his mixed features. "This half-breed?" "Sarah, he's barely human. Whatever he's done to you, it doesn't count in civilized society." Dakota translated William's words exactly, his voice steady despite the insult. The tribe bristled, hands moving to weapons. "I'll trade 20 rifles for her return," William announced. "Latest model," Henry repeaters. The offer was generous, dangerous. Some warriors murmured interest. Rifles could mean survival or dominance. Running Bear considered, then looked at Dakota. "Your wife. Your decision." Dakota turned to Sarah, speaking in Comanche so William couldn't understand. "You could go. Be safe. Have the life you were meant for." Sarah saw the pain he was trying to hide, the resignation. He was ready to let her go, even now. She made her choice. Turning to face the entire gathering, she placed her hand on her stomach and spoke clearly in English, then Comanche. "I carry this warrior's child. I stay with my husband." The lie exploded through both groups. William's face went white, then red with rage. "You whore! You've degraded yourself with." Dakota moved faster than thought, his knife at William's throat. "Speak of my wife with respect, or don't speak." Running Bear smiled slowly. "The spirits have spoken through new life. Woman stays, soldiers go, now." As the cavalry retreated, William shouted back, "This isn't over! I'll bring the whole fort!" That night, Dakota confronted her. "Why did you lie?" "To protect us both," Sarah said simply. "And maybe it doesn't have to be a lie forever." Mourning Dove's knowing smile hadn't faded for 3 days. "The spirits tell me many things," she said, packing sacred herbs into a leather pouch. "New life needs blessing, whether it exists in womb or only in heart. You go to sacred springs. 7 days. Return as true husband and wife, or return not at all." The journey took 2 days through canyon country Sarah had never seen. Dakota led the way, unusually quiet since her declaration. They made camp the first night beside a stream, the tension between them thick as smoke. "You shouldn't have lied," he finally said, staring into the fire. "Now they expect things will be different." "Maybe things should be different." Sarah moved closer to him. "This past year, you've shown me more kindness than William ever did. You've taught me, protected me, trusted me with your past. That doesn't mean—" "I know what it means." She took his hand. "Do you think I don't see how you look at me when you think I'm sleeping? Or how you smile when I get the Comanche words right? We've been dancing around this since that kiss in the cave." The sacred springs emerged from the earth in a hidden valley, steam rising like spirits in the morning light. Ancient pictographs covered the canyon walls. Lovers intertwined, fertility symbols, the circle of life. They made camp beside the warm pools, and for the first time, They were truly alone. That first night, Dakota taught her to read the stars. That one is first woman, he pointed. She chose her own path despite what the spirits planned. Like me? Like you? He turned to her. Sarah, that life you wanted, medicine, Boston, you could still have it. There are ways. Stop. She sat up, facing him. Stop trying to save me from choosing you. Under the stars, beside the sacred waters, she taught him English poetry, while he taught her Comanche songs. They swam in the warm springs at midnight, the mineral water like silk against their skin. On the third night, he gave her his mother's ring, a simple gold band he'd hidden for 20 years. I don't know the white ceremony words, he admitted. Then use your own. He spoke in both languages, promises of protection, partnership, and love. When she kissed him, it was different from before. Deeper, certain, complete. They made love on buffalo robes beside the springs, slow and gentle, learning each other's bodies like new languages. He traced the constellation of freckles on her shoulders. She memorized the scars that told his history. I love you, she whispered in Comanche, then English, then the universal language of touch. Later, lying entwined, he confessed, I stopped believing I could have this. Love, family, belonging. You have it now, she promised, with me. On the 7th day, returning to camp, they rode close, hands touching whenever the trail allowed. Sarah wasn't pregnant yet, but the lie had become a promise. They would create that life, that future, together. The camp was too quiet when they returned. No children playing, no women singing. Dakota pulled Sarah behind him as they entered, his hand on his knife. Running Bear sat in council with the warriors, his face grave. Black Wolf left 5 days ago. He returns this morning with news that changes everything. Black Wolf stood, his scarred face triumphant. I go to fort. I trade information for whiskey and rifles. Soldiers come tomorrow for the white woman. He turned to Sarah, switching to English. They pay much for you. But more interesting, I learned truth. Sarah's hand went protectively to her still flat stomach, though no life grew there yet. Black Wolf saw the gesture and laughed. No, baby. I watch you at Springs through Army telescope. You lie to tribe. He addressed the council in Comanche, but Sarah understood enough. He was calling for her to be cast out, given to the soldiers. But Black Wolf wasn't finished. I learned more at fort about him. He pointed at Dakota. Soldiers have papers. Thompson family from Colorado searched for lost son 20 years. Boy named Thomas. Green eyes. Taken at 7 years old, he threw a wanted poster at Dakota's feet, a sketch of what Thomas Thompson might look like grown, offering reward for information. Dakota stared at the paper, his world tilting. Thompson? But I was. My name was Brennan. Your name was lie, told by dying boy in cellar. Real Brennan boy died with family. You took his name. Confused memories. Black Wolf's voice dripped poison. Your real family lives. Rich cattle people. They never stop searching. The double revelation shattered the council's order. Some warriors called Black Wolf traitor for bringing soldiers. Others demanded Sarah be given up for lying. Running Bear raised his hand for silence. Black Wolf, you bring enemies to our door for personal vengeance. This is not Comanche way. His voice turned deadly. You challenged Dakota again, but this time, to the death. The fight was different now. Both men knew too much, had too much at stake. Black Wolf fought desperately, but Dakota fought with newfound purpose. He had a past to reclaim, a future to protect, and Sarah to defend. When Black Wolf pulled a hidden gun, another betrayal of honor, Dakota didn't hesitate. His knife found its mark, and Black Wolf fell, his secrets dying with him. But the damage was done. Soldiers come tomorrow, Running Bear said. We must move camp tonight. You, he looked at Dakota, must choose. Stay with tribe that raised you, or find family that lost you. Sarah found Dakota later by the river, still staring at the wanted poster. Thompson, he said wonderingly. I had convinced myself Brennan was real. but it was just a name I heard somewhere, clung to. You have family looking for you, Sarah said softly. A chance at the white world again. He pulled her close. I have family here too. You, the future we're building. He touched her stomach gently. The lie that will become truth. The cavalry won't stop coming. Black Wolf made sure of that. Dakota nodded slowly. Then maybe it's time to find out who Thomas Thompson really is. Fort Laramie rose from the plains like a wooden mountain. Dakota had made his choice to take Sarah somewhere safe before the soldiers found the tribe. But as they approached the gates, he turned his horse away. I can't leave you here alone, he said. And I can't stay. They'll arrest me the moment I enter. Then we go to Colorado, Sarah said firmly. Together, find your family. They won't want me. 20 years changes a person. I'm more Comanche than white now. Then they'll have to accept both parts, or lose you again. The journey took 2 weeks through territories, both beautiful and dangerous. Sarah had sewn herself a simple dress from traded fabric, though she kept her Comanche jewelry. Dakota wore white man's clothes that fit strangely on his frame. They were both caught between worlds, perfect for each other. The Thompson Ranch sprawled across a valley outside Denver, cattle grazing as far as the eye could see. The main house stood 3 stories tall, painted white with green shutters. As they approached, workers stopped to stare. An older woman emerged from the house, her gray hair pinned properly, her dress expensive but practical. She shaded her eyes, studying them. Then she gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Thomas? The word was barely a whisper. Oh God, Thomas? She ran, this proper lady in her 50s, ran like a girl, skirts flying. The birthmark, she sobbed, reaching for Dakota's face. Behind your ear, shaped like a crescent moon. My baby, my lost baby. Margaret Thompson had recognized what no one else could, not the man he'd become, but the child she'd lost. His father, Robert, emerged next, a giant of a man who wept openly as he embraced his son. They had 3 other children, all younger, who'd grown up hearing stories of their lost brother. The family welcomed Sarah with careful warmth that grew genuine when they saw how Dakota looked at her. We searched everywhere, Margaret explained that evening. The army said you were dead, but I never believed it. A mother knows. Dakota struggled at first. 20 years of Comanche life couldn't be erased. He slept outside until Sarah coaxed him in. He spoke Comanche when frustrated. He taught his youngest brother to track deer using tribal methods, scandalizing and delighting the ranch hands. But slowly, he built bridges. He became the ranch's translator and mediator with local tribes, preventing conflicts, arranging fair trades. Sarah opened a clinic, treating everyone regardless of race, using both frontier and Comanche medicine. Their daughter arrived the following spring, real this time. They named her Rose, for the sister Dakota had lost and found again in memory. She grew up speaking 3 languages, riding before she could walk, equally comfortable in Denver society and trading with the tribes. Years later, when people asked about their unusual love story, Sarah would smile. Desire didn't just change his heart, she'd say, watching Dakota teach their children under the Colorado sky. It changed our destiny. We chose to write a new story, one where 2 worlds didn't have to be at war, but could create something beautiful together. Before we close this incredible journey, I want to thank you for experiencing this powerful story with me. If these tales of love conquering impossible odds touch your heart, click that like button and subscribe to never miss another story that proves love knows no boundaries. Until tomorrow, remember that the greatest adventures often begin when we choose love over fear.